guys, we thought it would be fun to do a video discussing some of our favorite debut books. Not all of these people are debut authors anymore, some of them have more than one book out there, but the books that we're discussing today are all first-time books. So each of us have picked 5 debut books that we wanted to talk about, and we're just going to take turns discussing them. So without further ado, let's get right to it.
So the first book I'm going to talk about is an OwlCrate pick, and that is Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. This book is just so much fun. It's about our main character, Aloza, who is like the captain of her own female pirate crew, and she, right at the beginning of the book, purposely gets kidnapped by a rival pirate gang in order to steal something back from them. And it's just so much fun. Like, I read this in one sitting, and the sequel just came out, and I'm super excited to read it.
Yeah.
And this book is great.
Yeah, like if you just want like a fun book, fun from beginning to end, it's that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a Lady Jack Sparrow, it says on the cover. So it's a really, really fun story, and stuck with me this one. So good job, Tricia.
Yeah.
All right. The first one on my list is, I can't believe that I'm the only one who chose this one.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I kind of claimed
You
it.
were like, I claim it, so I understand why. Someone had to claim it.
Someone had to claim it. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. You know, everybody knows the story of J.K. Rowling, like writing this in a little cafe as a single mom on welfare and sort of being on the last straw. And then this amazing story that we all love so much just came pouring out of her. So as far as I'm concerned, this is like the best debut there is.
It's true.
Yeah, we were just, this is like the first one, and it's like, this is a terrific book, the Sunday Telegraph. It's just like,
haven't quite got there yet.
yeah. Anyways, Harry,
Yes.
love him so much.
Of
Thank
course.
you, J.K. Rowling.
So one debut book that I recently read and loved is The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. This comes out on March 20th, so very soon, so I highly recommend picking it up. It's a pretty sad book. It starts off with our main character's mother recently taking her own life, and obviously our main character is distraught, and she begins to think that her mother is actually turned into a bird. And she follows this bird to Taiwan, where she meets her biological grandparents for the first time, and it's just really about learning about her family and her heritage and her mother and dealing with grief. There's a lot of magical realism mixed in with this, and it's just stunning. It's such a beautiful debut. I can't even believe it's a debut because this author's just so talented. So this one I can't recommend enough.
I'm really looking forward to that one.
Sounds beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
So this book had to be on at least one of our lists because it is still going strong, but that is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I think it's still on the New York Times bestseller
Yeah, I
list,
think so.
and it came out last February.
Yeah.
Like, it came out a long time ago, and that's for a completely valid reason. I absolutely love this. It is a groundbreaking novel, I think, and it's just about our main character named Star, and she is in a car with her best friend when her best friend gets shot and killed by a police officer. It's kind of inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement, and it's just a really good, and it's a heavy book, but it's also a very entertaining book.
Yeah.
Like, the characters are wonderful, they have personalities, you know, she loves Harry Potter, and like,
The
so
family
the
in
family
that
is
book.
really great. So I totally understand why this book is so hyped. I think if you haven't read it yet, you totally should. It's really, really good.
I haven't read it yet.
You should.
Can I borrow it?
And I just think I'm super excited for Angie Thomas's next book that's coming out this year, and yeah, just an amazing debut.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Hate You Give seems to be a book that's kind of like transcended YA, and like
Yeah,
people of
absolutely.
all ages are picking it up, and I'm really glad because the message is important.
I think
so.
and like it resonates with everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I think anybody can take good things away from this
Yeah.
book. So loved it.
Cool. My second pick is also an OwlCrate Junior pick, and that is Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. I've talked about this book many times. It was on my top books of 2017 list, and obviously our unboxing and everything, but it's such a fantastic fantasy adventure. It's all about Morrigan Crow, our main character, who was born on the eventide, and it's the most unlucky day ever to be born, so she has grown up cursed and a total outcast because of it. And then on the evening of her 11th birthday, on the day that she's basically supposed to be like taken away and killed because she's cursed, she's instead rescued by this amazing man from another world, and he whisks her away into Nevermore. It's fantastic. There's like this hotel that's basically alive, and there's a gigantic cat who's like the manager of the hotel. So once she gets to this land, she has to go through a series of trials to see if she'll be accepted into the Wondrous Society, which will mean that she can stay in Nevermore and not have to go back home where she is unwanted. So I just loved it so much. And I was just talking to a publisher this morning, and the second one is coming out in November, and I'm hoping to get my hands on an early copy of it because I just cannot wait to read more of this world.
I've seen quite a few like YA reviewers reading this one and really liking it too.
Yeah.
I want to read it too.
It's one that was picked up for a movie deal like before the first one was even out. Like it's just like it jumps off the page. It's so great.
Nice.
Yeah.
It sounds like a really fun story.
Yeah. Love it.
Alright, so my next one is a bit of an older title, and that is Not a Drop to Drink by Mindy McGinnis. This is about a girl named Lynn, and her mother live in a little house, and they have a pond kind of attached to their house, and in this world, water is really scarce, so her and her mother, their entire lives revolve around protecting this little pond and not letting other people get to it so that they can survive. It's quite brutal, quite sad, and Mindy just takes the story to places that I never expected it would go. And the ending, like, was brutal. Yeah. And again, was not where I thought she would take it. And after I read this, I just knew that I would read anything that Mindy wrote, no matter what it was, because she just, I don't know, she's really good at taking genres and like flipping them on their head and doing really different things with it. So if you haven't read this one, you definitely should. She's got quite a few books out now, but this one I think is still my favorite.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah. I would love this to be made into a movie.
Yeah, it would make a really good, like, creepy,
dystopian
thriller movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it like sci-fi or is it just
It's just dystopian. Okay. Like it's our world,
like
but
a future.
Okay.
The water has dried up.
Yeah.
Which is scary to think about.
Yeah.
So, which seems to be happening, which is great.
Yeah.
So my next book is actually Blood and Sand by C.V. Wick. So I read this last year during Spookathon, and I absolutely loved it, and I think it came out this January, so very recently. And this is basically the legend story of Spartacus, but if Spartacus was a female. Because, fun fact, they don't actually know if Spartacus was male or female. So she kind of like so C.V. Wick kind of ran with that idea. Our main character's name is Atia, and she, at the beginning, it's kind of, sounds quite brutal, but she's sold to a nobleman and given to a gladiator as like a gift. Okay. But she is the last of her people, and it's like a warrior nation. So she's quite badass. And I went into this, and I've discussed this before, that expecting it to be like a really unhealthy romance to come from that situation where she's basically gifted to this man. But it didn't. It was a very, the gladiator character is a very respectful, interesting, complex kind of person, and it didn't go the way I was expecting it to, which was really cool. This is super fast-paced. It kind of follows certain actual real events in Roman history, and it's really good, and I still think about it, so I'm super excited for C.V. Wick. This is a great book, and I think she did a great job.
Is that like the first book in a series?
I don't know. It, like, I want it to be, because the ending, though, it ends in a way and you're like, no!
And it must be a series then, if it ends on a cliffhanger.
I actually don't know, though. I don't know if that's on Goodreads or anything yet.
Interesting.
Because it's debut, maybe they didn't want to commit to anything yet.
Right.
But I really hope it gets more, because I was okay with the ending, but it definitely, like, I could use more. But yeah, this was a really good book.
Awesome.
Very fun.
So my next book is actually a little bit of a cheat for me because I haven't read it yet, and it's crazy that I haven't read it yet because it's so popular. But I wanted to end my middle grade section here with Wonder by R.J. Palacio. Like I said, I haven't read this one. I just put it on hold at the library and then realized that Karina owns it. So may I please borrow this? Thank you. But I chose it because it's her debut book, and it just it swept the world. And so many people know this book that may not typically know middle grade titles at all. But this one came out while I was working as a bookseller at a children's bookstore, and it's one of the titles that it was like the kids that were coming in and asking for it. We were not recommending it to them. They were like, why don't you have this in stock? And we couldn't keep it in stock just because it got passed from kid to kid to kid, and it's just got this incredible message of kindness and empathy, and I just think it's such an amazing book, and I love that something with such an important message is something that kids actually really want to read. Yeah, I haven't seen the movie yet. I haven't read the book, but I know that it's spawned follow-up books and picture books and just so many things. So.
And I've seen I have seen the movie, and the day that I went to see it, in my theater, in the audience, there was a group of kids from a school where they were they all read it together as a school book club, and they were all wearing Wonder shirts. And I'm talking young kids.
Before the movie started.
Yeah, it was very moving, and I've heard of that happening in multiple schools, to be honest. Book made me cry, movie made me cry. It's really good, and it's something that I think everybody should read, even adults. It's we all probably need a reminder to be a little bit nicer.
And
choose kindness.
It's a beautiful story, and like you said, kids are also drawn to it. It's not just because Augie's such a great character. He's awesome.
So there you go. Wonder, and now I have to read it, obviously.
You'll love it.
I will.
Next up, I wanted to talk about An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This is a pretty popular debut novel, but again, I can't believe it's her debut because I thought it was just so well written and fleshed out. It takes place in a world inspired by ancient Rome, where an emperor is ruling over the entire nation, and if you defy this emperor in any way, you are just killed automatically. Our main character, Leah, lives with her grandparents and brother, and one evening her brother is arrested for treason and taken to a prison, and Leah makes the decision to join a rebel group to try and save her brother. She ends up kind of going undercover as a slave at the Empire's military academy, and there she meets another character named Elias, who's kind of the top soldier in the academy, and things happen once their paths cross. That's all I'll say. But I love both of the main characters so much, and this one just kept me on the edge of my seat. I started it and read it pretty much in one sitting, which for me, with a fantasy novel, especially one as big and with such a unique world as this, would take me a bit longer to get through. But this one, it was just so if you haven't picked it up yet, highly recommend. The third book in the series is coming out this year, and I can't wait.
It's gonna be so good. We need to reread those before they come out.
I think I will have to too, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in these books.
But it's very good.
Yeah, it really is.
Very good. My next book, and this is, I can't believe this is his debut, but that is Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 10th anniversary edition, which is pretty crazy. But this is just such a unique fantasy story that is part of his bigger Cosmere universe. Brandon Sanderson has his own fantasy universe. And this takes place near the city of Elantris that used to be this kind of magical city where these godlike people lived, and it was just shining and beautiful, and this beacon of light. And then something happened, and this kind of disease and virus kind of takes over, and these people lose all their magic and are turned into wretches, kind of just really sick, and the whole city gets blocked off and quarantined to prevent this from happening other places. And then for the beginning of the story, a girl comes to the city outside of Elantris in an arranged marriage, and she finds out that her to-be husband is missing, but and presumed dead, but he's actually had the symptoms of the Elantrans, where he's turned into this awful just creature, basically. And so he's been exiled to Elantris. And so you kind of get to see in Elantris and outside of Elantris. And the Elantrins are so interesting because the people on the outside assume them to just be like nothing really, like just like these lost causes basically. But the Elantrins inside are like trying to rally, and like one of their like ailments basically, which I thought was so interesting, is any sort of pain they have. So like if they like skin their knee or even like stub their toe, that pain never goes away. So anything that happens to them, that pain, they have to live with the pain for the rest of their lives.
That's horrible.
So it's like
horrible.
quite.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, right. So it's like, and he just does such a good job with the story. Really fantastic. Just so intricate. Loved it. Definitely. I think people don't love this one as much as a lot of his other books, but I think if you like Brandon Sanderson, you should give it a try, because I really, really enjoyed it.
Very cool.
Awesome. All right, so my last two are both grown-up books. So the first one on my list is Donna Tartt, The Secret History. Donna Tartt wrote The Goldfinch, which won the Pulitzer in 2014, and that was the first one that I read, and then I wanted to backtrack in her catalog. So this one actually came out in 2003. Oh no, 92.
1992.
92.
She goes a long time between books.
She does, and it makes sense
long.
once you read her writing, because it's dense. But The Secret History is all, it's told through the point of view of Richard, who is in university. He's 19 years old, and he's there to study classics, and meets, or sort of works his way into this like very exclusive ancient Greek studies group in the classics department. So there, he meets these 4 other students, and they become like a very cliquey, exclusive, elitist club kind of within their program. What you learn in the first 2 pages of the book is that they are not just held together by this study group, but there has been a murder that has like locked them together. Corey is actually reading this one right now.
And I didn't
read
know
this
you were
one.
talking about it.
Yeah. I read it, I think, 2 years ago. And it definitely stuck with me. It's like, we were just discussing the fact that like they're not likable characters.
No.
They're extremely pretentious, just like privileged white university students.
Yeah.
But they're like expertly written. Like they're fleshed out and complex, and you just want to know more about why they're these awful people and what they're gonna do next. It's like definitely a thriller. Not particularly a fast-paced thriller,
No.
but a well put together thriller for sure. When I was a kid, I was really like, I had a real thing for like private school books, like The Daring Game and things like that, and I would say that this is sort of like the grown-up version of that. It's also been compared to
The Dead Poets
Society.
Society. It definitely, and I see it's very different, but it definitely has that vibe.
Yeah, that like that intense relationship of being away at school with somebody.
Just like almost like falling in love with these people in like a very dark way.
Very dark.
And like, anyway.
So yeah, as I said, definitely dense. It took me a long time to get through, but it was for sure worth it in the end. And then you also need to read The Goldfinch as well, because it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, I really want to read The Secret History. Okay, so my next one isn't going to surprise anyone, but I would just be a liar if I didn't feature it in this video, because, I don't know, it's definitely one of my favorite debut books ever, and that's More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. This, I'm sure you have also heard of, because it's become very popular, which is great. But it essentially takes place in our world, just slightly in the future, where there is a facility that exists where you can go and have your memories erased, if you so choose. And our main character, Aaron, is just going through a really hard time. His father has committed suicide, and he's just having a lot of trouble at home and with his friends, like just in his neighborhood. One day, a boy named Thomas moves into his neighborhood, and they become really quick friends, and then it kind of grows into maybe something more, and Aaron is really struggling with his sexuality and, you know, being okay with being gay, and he decides that he might want to go to this institute to have his memories erased so he will no longer feel gay. It's really heartbreaking. Like, so many aspects of it are heartbreaking. But there's, like, twists in this that I didn't see coming from a mile away, and I don't know. I just think it's brilliant, like, how Adam wrote this story. It's, like, a really cool mix of, like, contemporary with a bit of sci-fi, and I just thought it was brilliant, and Adam's not afraid to go places, like, to go there. Like, he doesn't hold back. So, yeah, if you want, like, a really hard-hitting contemporary, this would be a good one. Yeah.
Alright, so the last book I want to talk about, and there were so many books I wanted to talk about, but we had to pick 5.
Narrow it down to 5.
And I, of course, had to bring my shiniest copy. But it's The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This is a book that's very well known in the adult fantasy world, and it is so good. Locke Lamora is probably one of my all-time favorite characters. It starts off with him as a small boy, being an orphan and trying to survive in this, like, quite grungy city called Camor. And he eventually gets taken in by this, like, group of thieves, criminals, called the Gentleman Bastards. And they kind of play themselves off to be this, like, minor crime group in the city, but they're actually the best. They call themselves the richest and cleverest men in Camor. Like, it's just so good. It's so much fun. This, like, group of characters. Again, it goes places where you're like, what? How dare you? But Locke Lamora is just, like, so witty and, like, clever and sassy, and all of the characters are like that. And they kind of, like, play off each other. Has that really good, like, crew of characters that work together. So good. So much fun. I don't think you need to be into high fantasy to enjoy this one. It's definitely some of the best characters and, like, fun, like, heisty plots I've ever read.
Nice.
So, it's a very good book.
Nice.
Now, someday we'll get book 4.
So the last one on my list is The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. This, I believe, is my favorite book of all time. I'm actually very much due for a reread. I first read it when I was 18 and have read it several times since then. But yet another one where the novels are few and far between. I think she only has one other, but maybe 2.
Maybe 2, yeah.
Maybe 2. Anyways. So this one is, again, like, set in our world, but with a little bit of a sci-fi twist. It's told through the eyes of Henry and Claire. Henry was born with what she's called chrono displacement disorder, which basically means that he spontaneously time travels. He has no control over it. He never knows where and when he's going, but it's always, like, within his own timeline, but there will often be, like, 2 of him in his timeline. So it alternates from perspectives of Henry, who is a librarian as an adult, and Claire, who becomes his wife. She is an art student. But they meet when Claire is 6 and he's 36, and they marry when she's 23 and he's 31. So you have all of these, like,
timelines.
Yeah, all these interlocking timelines, and it's, like, stunning writing, amazing storytelling. It's heartbreaking and, like, funny and, like, very sexy in some points. It's fantastic. The movie broke my heart because it didn't even begin to do it justice. But yeah, I absolutely, like, I'm in awe of this book. Yeah, read it.
I love it.
I haven't read that one yet.
You haven't?
No.
I have. It's so good.
Yeah.
I've read it a couple times as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's always funny because, like, there's a chip in my brain that can, like, just be like, oh yeah, that makes sense, when an author takes, like, 2 seconds to just, like, explain their version of time travel, basically. Yeah. And I think she does a very, very good job of, like, making it make sense in a way that you don't feel like you're reading sci-fi, you're just reading the story of these 2 people who are in love and trying to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my final book is from an author that I definitely fell in love with last year. I became quite obsessed. But her debut book was The Weight of Feathers, and this is by Anna Marie McLemore. I've read all of her books except for one, and I do think that this one is my favorite, although they're all wonderful. And this is kind of like a Romeo and Juliet type story where it's about two competing families. So we have the Paloma family and we have the Corbeau family. The Paloma family are known to kind of dress up as mermaids and do water acrobats in the rivers and lakes. And then the Corbeau family like to kind of dress up as angels and do tightrope walking shows in the trees. And so these are two kind of like competing circus families. They travel a lot, but the story takes place when they're both trying to perform in the same small town. And the teenagers from these families meet and kind of form a relationship. And it's just so beautiful. Like, she takes the circus idea but just does it in a way that I've never seen done before, like mermaids and angels. But it just like makes sense and it feels so real. Like, it feels like something you could go and see in your town. And yeah, so like not only is the relationship really interesting and the characters are really great, but just the entire atmosphere and setting is so cool. Yeah, and it deals with like family and events from the past and race and just so many different elements all woven together, which is kind of this author's deal and why I love her so much. And I just want more people to read her because I still feel like she's very underhyped. Yeah, like if you like Maggie Stiefvater or Laini Taylor or any of those authors that have really lush, beautiful, magical writing, like you're gonna enjoy this. So please give it a read so I can obsess about it with people.
So that was a look at some of our favorite debut stories from some of our very favorite authors. I know I certainly have a lot more on my TBR list now. Yeah. You guys always have great picks. We would love to hear some of yours as well in the comments below.
If you liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Happy reading and thanks for being awesome. Bye!